Hi, let's look at expressions and order of operations today. And you'll notice that big yellow arrow, that's saying we're going to look at vocabulary. The first vocabulary word is right here, the power. Now a power is when we write out, for example, 2 to the third power, and I write it out 2 times 2 times 2. That's the power, when we write it out using repeated multiplication. Now an exponent is, in that same problem, 2 to the third power. The exponent is right here, the small little 2. And the base is this large number, the large 2, that we end up writing 2 times 2 times 2. Now a numerical expression has only numbers and operations. And when I say operations, I mean add or subtract, multiply or divide. The word evaluate means we want to find the answer. So if you look up here, we evaluated when we said 2 to the third power equals 8. And then order of operations, we'll look at that on page 2. Now the word variable could represent any letter, and that could be an X or a Y or a W. And then an algebraic expression has variables in it, so you will see letters in the problem. Writing powers. Write the product as a power and describe it in words. Look at example A. 5 times 5 equals 5 to the second power. We can say that as 5 to the second power, or another way we say that in algebra is 5 squared. Example B. 8 times 8 times 8 equals 8 to the third power. So again, I can write it in words saying 8 to the third power, or another way to say that is 8 cubed. Now when we get to higher powers, for example C, x times x times x times x equals x to the fourth power. So they're really only special words for the second power. The second power is squared, and the third power is cubed. But any power higher than 3, we just say fourth power or fifth power or sixth power. Guided practice. Write the product as a power, describe it in words, and then find the value of the power. So they're actually asking us to do 3 things. So let's take a look at number 2. 11 times 11 times 11. Notice writing the product as a power, I just wrote it as 11 to the third power. Now describe it in words, I would say 11 cubed. Or another way you could say it is 11 to the third power. Find the value, we multiply it out. 11 times 11 gives us 121. 121 times 11 would give us 1,331. Now please take a look at number 4. 15 times 15. Well, we could write it as 15 to the second power. Another way of saying it is 15 squared, or 15 to the second power. And then we could write it out and solve it. So 15 times 15 would give us 225. And notice when I get my final answer, I'm boxing it in green. Take a look at number 6. 10 times 10 times 10. Well, that's 10 to the third power. Now, or I could say 10 cubed using my new vocabulary word. And then 10 times 10 times 10 would give us 1,000. Order of operations tells us exactly how to do a problem, and a fun way to remember it or to memorize it is using GEMDAS. G-E-M-D-A-S. Now each letter has a meaning. The G is the first letter, and that's what we do first. We always evaluate expressions inside grouping symbols. And then the second thing we're going to do are the exponents, the E. So we're going to evaluate any exponents that we see in the problem. The third thing we're going to do is multiply and divide from left to right. It's very important that you do all the multiplying and dividing from left to right. We don't always do the multiplying first. It depends which operation is the first that we see in the problem. And then the last thing we ever do is add and subtract from left to right. All right, let's look at how to use GEMDAS when they ask us to evaluate the expression. So take a look at number 8. 32 minus 9 times 2 plus 7. The first thing I do is I look for grouping symbols. There are no parentheses, so I'm going to move on to the E, the exponent. And there are no exponents, so now I move on to any multiplying or dividing I see in the problem. And I do see multiplying right here, so I underlined it. And now I'm going to write it and replace it. So I have 32 minus 18 plus 7. Now I don't see any more multiplying or dividing, so I move on to adding or subtracting. And now I go from left to right. So 32 minus 18 gives me 14, and then 14 plus 7 would give me 21. And remember, box your answers. Show your work and box your answers. Okay, take a look at number 10. I have 64 divided by the quantity 9 plus 7. Notice how the 9 plus 7 is in parentheses. So now I'm going to do what's inside the grouping symbols first. 9 plus 7 is 16. So 64 divided by 16 gives me 4. And I box my answer. Take a look at number 12. Now notice this fraction bar right here. That's actually a grouping symbol, and it's trying to tell you to do what's on the top of the fraction first. So 41 plus 13 gives me 54. And then I do what's in the denominator, the bottom of the fraction. 9 times 3 gives me 27. And the last thing I do is divide. 54 divided by 27 gives me my answer of 2. Let's look at how to evaluate an expression when A equals 14 and B equals 4. So there's actually two steps. We're going to plug in the values, and then we use GEMDAS to help us get a final answer. So take a look at number 14. B times A. Well, I substitute the 4 in for B and the 14 in for A. And remember, when two letters are right next to each other in algebra, that means multiply. So I put that multiplication symbol in. So 4 times 14 would give us the answer of 56. Now I want to see on your paper, I might need to see you multiply this out if you don't have your 14s memorized. I want to see you multiply it out. And then take a look at number 16. 5a over a minus b. Well, I plug in the value. 5 times a was 14 over, and then 14 minus 4. Well, 5 times 14, remember we do the top of the fraction first, gave me 70. And then 14 minus 4 would give me 10. So 70 divided by 10 gives me my final answer of 7.